Retiring in Roatan, Honduras. We haven't talked about this in a while, and it is a very popular topic. I'd say most people that are immigrating into Roatan are retirees, and that's, well, it's just a wonderful place to retire, and it's getting better and better better every year. It is a delicate balance between development and what we have historically called Roatan, Honduras. But if we're going to just focus on the positive side, because when you have development, it obviously changes the island. So what the island used to be is this nice rustic, just beach vibe, very local community, is now changing a bit, which also, you know, brings in opportunities. It brings in healthcare, it brings in all the things that we're going to talk about right now with retiring in Roatan, Honduras. So the number one question is, how much does it cost to live in Roatan, Honduras if you are going to plan your retirement? And it really varies on your quality of living and how much money you spend on discretionary expenses. So retirees, you are able to get, to live in Roatan, you have to be a legal resident. So we have residency versus citizenship. There is citizenship, but nobody really does that. I am a resident, a long-term resident. And there is something called a retirement residency. There are several types of residency, but if you're retiring, they just want to see, in order to keep that residency and get it approved, you have to have $2,500 of income a month brought to Honduras, and you deposit that in your bank account every month, not every 6 months, but every month. That's a lot of information right there. So you do need $2,500 a month. They do accept Social Security, pensions, all of those things. All they care about is the money is being transferred from, well, wherever you're coming from, and really it's just going into your Honduran bank account. And you do have to do that for 5 years before you become more of a long-term status where you don't have to show those bank statements, but you do have to do that for 5 years. So that's something to think about. Now, do you need $2,500 to live in Roatan? Most people spend about $2,500, $1,500 a single person, or per person, I would say. Children are obviously a little bit cheaper unless they're in private school like mine, and they're a little bit more expensive. And your biggest expenses are going to be rent or buying a house. So rents, I would say, expect to pay between $1,000 plus, but the range is really $1,000 to $2,000, just depending on what you are renting, and that would probably be a 2-bedroom. There are places that are cheaper, absolutely, and then there's places that are 10, 20 grand a month. So there is a big range, but most people kind of stay in that range. Or you can buy a home. The average home sale in Roatan is around $350,000, or that is our average for the year. But I would say most homes are right in that slightly less, that $250,000 to $500,000 price range. And then the sky is the limit on what you can actually get in Roatan. But that's kind of a good baseline, especially if you're going to be in Roatan long term. I'm biased, I'm a realtor. Buying a home is nice because then you have a lot more control over, your living situation. With long-term rentals are hard to find in Roatan, and that's just because of supply and demand, where we have such a big push for short-term rentals, especially now with Roatan becoming more and more popular. You get you get the same for 1 week as you do a month, typically speaking. So most people want to rent out short-term and make 3 to 4 times what they would make on long-term rentals, which is why we just don't have a lot of long-term rentals in Roatan right now, and they are hard to get. And for long-term, longer than 12 months, because you do have landlords that see what other people are getting, and they're just like, you got to get out of the house. There's not a lot of landlord-tenant protections here, so it's kind of do things at your own risk. There's nothing wrong with renting, especially as soon as you get here, or if you're trying to feel the area out. I think it's wonderful. I'd suggest staying here at least 3 months so you can see. You can get past the honeymoon phase to see if it's, you like it. It's like the dating phase. Just coming down and getting married real fast might work, might not work. So it's good to get to know the area a little bit better before you move in. Those are going to be your biggest costs. Traveling on and off the island, it's around $1,000 a ticket, or it's going to be between $800 to $1,000 every time you have to leave the island. And those are going to be your biggest expenses. Second biggest thing is medical. So we have, our medical is changing a lot in Roatan. It really depends on your needs. 5 years ago, I've been cancer-free for 5 years, but found out I had 2 cancers here and here. I actually got diagnosed, partially in Roatan, partially over in San Pedro. I've had nothing but really great healthcare here. It's just getting better and better all the time, just because, well, the population's growing, the demand's growing, so there's a lot more doctors coming in, investing, creating practices. The hospitals are getting better, all of the above, and I'd say it's fairly good. We have a lot of urgent care style things. We have 2 hospitals, 2 private hospitals, and then we are working on our public hospital. And then there's a lot of clinics that do really great things. Some for like surgeries, like they have a birthing center where that also does a lot of like random surgeries of that nature. So we have a lot of availability on the island. And then we also have a lot of availability in La Ceiba. I personally, when I was doing all the cancer diagnostics, I just went to San Pedro because it was easier. I can get in and out and do all. I got all the testing done in around 4 hours, which was lovely. And my bill was $800. I did the exact same thing when I went up to MD Anderson because of the placement of this little guy. Those diagnostics, to just repeat what everybody had done down here, $27,000. So one I paid for with cash and I don't know if you're skipping out of a doctor's office when you're like, hey, you have 2 cancers, but your bill's only $800. So, we'll focus on the good part, and the cancer's gone. So anyway, I digress. So healthcare, it is getting better. It really depends on your needs. I have to take medicine every day because I no longer have a thyroid. Medicines are fairly easy to get, but it really depends on what your medication is. And what's nice, you can just go to the pharmacy and ask what they have. If they don't have it, they are usually very helpful, and you can order it from the mainland. So there are lots of opportunities, even if you don't have it. Have it in Roatan. Some medications are starting to be a little bit more expensive. I'm coming from an American standpoint where the system might or might not be broken, and things can cost a lot of money. The medications here are costing a little bit more. I think my levothyroxine or my Synthroid is around $50 a month. With insurance in the US, it's like $3, but that's, there's kind of the medical tourism kind of going on. So some medications, if you buy them in Roatan, it's like everything's $50. But if you go to a non-tourist area or like La Ceiba, which is just the right on the mainland, medicines are a lot cheaper. So just some things to think about, but medical care is much, much cheaper. To go to the doctor is around $50. And so it's just, and I pay for everything out of pocket. I do have emergency insurance that is for, that would, just emergency non-planned medical things to where I could go back to the United States. So it's just more of the emergency care if needed to be medevaced to the United States for whatever reason. There are other great places. Costa Rica is great. Panama is great. Just Miami is really close. Being an American, I'm just familiar with it, but a lot of Europeans go to Panama or Costa Rica, which I would actually like to look into. Anyway, there are lots of options, and what I pay for that insurance is around $1,500 per person per family member. It does depend on your age, and they can exclude pre-existing conditions, so do watch out for that. But it is around 15. Well, my children are around 200. Well, they used to be free. Now they're a little bit older. And then it kind of ratchets it up based on age and sex. So those are some things to think about, but $4,000 a year for insurance for a family of 4 is pretty gosh darn good, but it is mostly for medical emergencies and large items. It's not, the little random things that we do here where we just pay out of pocket in cash. Some things to think about if you are retiring in Roatan, Honduras is, well, your social life. What are there things to do? Well, you live on a beautiful beach. There is a big community of immigrants, expats, call us whatever you want. We'll just stick to those 2 names. There's around 15,000 immigrants living on the island. There's a population of about 130,000 people. So there is a lot of immigrants coming into the island, most of which are retirees. So you have a good mixture of people that you probably have things in common with. And it's also good to know and get to meet your neighbors. So those were the two big ones with retirement, budgeting, and things of that nature that most people think about. So if you ever have any questions, my door is always open.